All right, so let's discuss the differences between the color balance adjustment layer and the selective color adjustment layer. And the reason why I'm going to discuss it is that I go over this a lot with students and I get a lot of questions about, hey, what are the differences between these adjustment layers and why might I care? Because they do on the surface seem like they have similarities, right? So I have them up here and I have some other layers, which I'm going to explain in a second, but I have selective color and I have color balance ready to go. Now, the first thing that happens is that people say, they seem like they're similar. And this is usually because you can choose shadows, midtones, and highlights to adjust on color balance. And then on selective color, among many other options, you also have whites, neutrals, and blacks, which are curiously named differently rather than highlights, midtones, and shadows. But we have them here as well. So people think, all right, if I'm on neutrals and then I have these sliders on selective color, how is that different than being on color balance, being on midtones, and I have these sliders? Okay, it's the first and most realistic answer you need to know is that if your images look good and you like the result you're getting, you're fine. There's not really a whole lot to glean from understanding the technical behind it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. All right, so color balance. You look at it like this, right? It's channel remapping by tonal range. Okay, and that basically means that things are going to feel more of a shift, right? So it works on RGB channels directly. Now, they all kind of do, but just bear with me here, okay? So you can target your shadows and midtones and highlights, of course, and you shift color by adding and subtracting channel values. The upshot of this, for the most part, since it's so global, is that especially if you have preserved luminosity on, you don't see a lot of changes in your density, right? Which we can look at as luminosity or simply put how bright something looks, right? So this is why I tend to call color balance as more of a hue shift, right? So push this tonal range towards another color, right? It's not exactly linear. And if you have preserved luminosity on and off, which we'll talk about in a minute, that changes a few things. That's just trying to help you keep things more palatable, right? Now, selective color, these are just broad descriptions, guys. Selective color, it works on a per color CMYK style remixing, hence CMYK, black. If you don't come from the printing world, the sort of offset printing, 4-color printing, then you don't know what CMYK is. It might be confusing, and that's fine. You can be a very, very successful photographer or digital artist and not know anything about CMYK. I happen to have a background in printing and pre-press and graphic design and all that. So I did a lot of CMYK work in my day. Now, again, you can work on specific sort of, luminosity ranges, but you can also push and pull from the different color ranges, right? So it adjusts CMYK components inside those colors. That's basically it, right? So think about that behavior as relative to existing color composition, right? And of course, speaking of relative, you have this relative button and this absolute button. And not only can you look at it like, well, absolute's going to be more intense? We'll show you a sample in a minute. Absolute's going to be more intense and relative is not. Think about absolute being more linear. It makes the direct changes. This can be used for lots of utility things, which I've done when it comes to using selective color adjustment layer. Lots of color sciencey utility things, not just making images look pretty, right? So color balance, it feels more like a hue shift, like I said, because it basically is, right? So it adds and subtracts RGB values. It keeps luminosity mostly stable, especially with that preserve luminosity button, right? It doesn't care what color something is, if you will. It only cares where it sits tonally. So, like a midtone plus green, you're basically subtracting magenta channel, right? So if you come here and go to green, you're subtracting the magenta channel. Now, before we start showing demos, I'm going to kind of review a few more things about selective color, kind of make that quite clear. In selective color, like I said, it adjusts the CMYK components, right? And that inherently changes density. And what does that mean? So again, we don't have our color demo ready yet. I'll set it up in one moment. But that means that things are additive and subtractive. And that's the first demo I'm going to start with, okay? Because it does make a difference in how you perceive things and what tool you may or may not want to use. Or if you feel like you're fighting a tool. This I get a lot. Students tell me, I don't like using selective color because I feel like it works against me. Okay, well, let's understand what the hell is going on, and that might be able to help you out. Now, what do I have in front of me? I have a Granger chart in front of me that's covering pretty much every color of the spectrum, obviously, and every luminosity change. The difference is that, of course, we have a very strong saturation across just about everything. Even though saturation comes down when the brightness goes up here in the highlighted area, we need to have a more realistic kind of situation to show what color might do in a real image. So what I'm going to do is I have a hue and saturation layer, and I'm going to reduce the saturation, cut it in half, -50. This is going to be a little bit more real world, but we can still use a color chart to see how things are responding, I should say. All right. So by the way, for those wondering, the Granger chart is created by a spectrum rainbow gradient, and then we have a black to white luminosity gradient on top, set to luminosity blend mode. There we have it. Now I've reduced the saturation by half, gives us somewhat of a real world example, but we can still use a color chart for it. Now let's talk about selective color. We mentioned that this is additive and subtractive. One of the best ways we can see that is on the shadow. So we're going to go to the blacks, right? Now think about this. If I go to cyan and red on this side here, this is, you notice how they're not labeled cyan and red, by the way. I want to mention that. If cyan, magenta, yellow, black, you're adding cyan or you're removing cyan. That's basically what's happening. And that's what happens with our density perception. So on blacks, if I increase cyan, you see how it pushes cyan into the shadows, okay? Off and on. And you might not even see a lot of color. You're thinking, you just look like an added black, kind of, because we're targeting only the shadows. But here's the difference. When I pull cyan out and add red, as it were, it brightens. That's that subtractive density I'm talking about, right? So what happens is you're pulling out cyan and you're pulling out that luminance perception as well. And you're not really pulling out luminance perception, but because of luminance perception, the way this uses density, it adds a brightening effect to the red, right? This is why overall I tell people you can use this black right here to kind of help adjust minorly on any single range that you want. But nonetheless, that's the nature of it. Now, how is that different from color balance? Well, if I go to color balance and go to shadows, if I add cyan, it pushes cyan into the shadows very broadly, I might add. And if I add red, it pushes red into the shadows. But you notice it doesn't brighten the black. It doesn't brighten the shadows. And now preserve luminosity is on. That'll work very, very differently because it's trying to keep that depth, right? So if I turn off preserve luminosity and add cyan, right, it's a little broader, a little smoother. And if I add red, again, very perceptually similar. Does not change that density in any way because it's like, okay, well, that's what you want. That's what you're going to get. Preserve luminosity tries to control that perceived density, that perceived luminance, excuse me. Now, what is Adobe doing there? I don't know the math. I do not know the math, but I know the end result is that when you use color balance, you get more of a shift. Now let's go ahead and do these shifts in the midtones, right? So if we come here and add green, we see green being pushed into the mids very, very broadly. And if we add magenta, shift to magenta, I should say, we have very broad shift. You can see how this is a very pleasing change into the mids, and you can see that the mids are very, very broad. Okay, so we go to preserve luminosity, turn it off, and we add green. Okay, not so much, right? It's not quite as seamless, all right? Well, we want preserve luminosity to keep it seamless, right? Now, also, let's go back to selective color, and let's go to neutrals. If we push cyan, sure enough, you see that cyan band right across the midtones, right? And if I pull cyan out, we get a brightening effect, that red brightening effect in the mid-range. You've probably seen this when you use the tool, right? Of course, adding magenta this way and reducing magenta brings that brightening effect into that mid-range. This is very maximized, of course. Speaking of, what happens when we go to absolute? All right, so we add magenta. You see how it pushed it right into that mid-range band? And then we pull out magenta, you get green right in that mid-range band and spreading outward as well. Now, like I said, absolute can be used for some calculation kind of things too. That's another video for another time. But again, what happens is that because selective color is additive and subtractive, which is kind of a misnomer, if you will, right? You can almost look at it like, let's say, for example, if you're in selective color, right, and you move around these sliders, it's almost like saying how much cyan is in the red and how much black is in the neutrals, right? And more to the point, how much cyan is not in the red. You can sort of think of it like ink mixing. Again, if you come from the printing world, it's sort of like ink mixing and not so much like light-based RGB shifting. And that's a whole discussion unto itself as well. But that's the key conceptual difference. Now, one of the things that's kind of important to understand, again, I want to mention, is that when you are playing around with these settings and you're playing around with the different tools, there's not one that's better than the other. And if you're doing printing or not doing printing, it doesn't matter what tool you use. Again, if something looks good, then you're probably okay. But understanding the differences helps us when we, feel frustrated or feel like we're fighting against a tool, et cetera, et cetera. So one way I kind of look at it is that color balance is really good. It's fast for one. Clean hue shifts, very, very few shifts that are going to look unpleasing, regardless of what shadows, range or whatever that you want. And it's great for global grading, tonal band color direction, et cetera, and quick corrections as well. Don't get me wrong. It's really good for correcting, like casts and stuff, right? Selective color, I guess you can call it a little more surgical. and it's density aware for better or worse. It's great, honestly, for like skin refinement, cinematic grading, and rich and kind of a rich look, if you will, adding a lot of richness. Now, the difference, of course, the core difference is that, you know, you can choose reds. For example, here we have the saturation down. So if I go to reds and I push cyan into it, you can see that across that red band, we're either pulling cyan out or we're putting cyan into that. Oh, I'm neutrals again. Apologize for that. Let's go to reds. Reds. Now we push cyan in and we push cyan out. You see how the reds are changing? Let's go ahead and move that to something more that we can see. Let's go to the blues. We'll push green into the blues, which creates more of a cyan. And then we push magenta. Excuse me, I'm speaking again. We're pushing magenta and we're pulling magenta. So when we pull magenta, what stands out more? The remaining tones are going to be cyans, right? And of course, we put on absolute, it becomes a lot stronger. Okay. But you see what's happening there. We can choose those ranges. So if I were to go to magenta, for example, and choose yellows and pull out yellows, you can see those very, very subtle shifts. So again, selective color is sort of like additive and subtractive, like I said, right? And color, actually, let me put it this way. Color balance shifts color by pushing light. Let's put it that way. Selective color sort of reshapes color by rebuilding it. And again, we're thinking sort of in the ink printing mode. Again, I want to repeat, you don't need to use selective color if you're going to print. That's not some magic solution to anything. It's just where the color model, if you will. It's not really a true color model, but where the thinking comes from, where the premise comes from. These tools, some of these tools, the basic core elements of the tools are very old, decades old, right? So color balance, moving color, as it were. You can call it moving color. Selective color, redefining color, if you will, right? So because color balance is more of a hue shift, you're going to get more predictable results, especially with preserved luminosity on. Great for corrective. I tend to use it a lot for corrective, but also for creative. Selective color, that's the one where we can get lost or we can get confused or upset because we think we're going to add warmth and then we add density and we get mad. We're like, why is it so dark? Okay, there are ways to compensate for that. Okay, you can add a layer on top of it. You can clip down a curve or something like that. There's different things we can do, but that additive, subtractive nature can also be leveraged intentionally. So for example, if you want to come to your shadows and pull out magenta and create a light green effect for that kind of cool cinematic feel, selective color is your choice. Because if you wanted to lighten the shadows and add green, color balance won't do it. You go to shadows to add green, you're adding green, but you're not lightening it, right? This will be a two-step process if you want to do it. So just understanding how they're different and how you can leverage them in key times. That's very, very, very important. Okay. I hope that makes sense. And I know this it's a little bit overly nerdy. For example, if I were to say color balance is a vector shift in RGB space, super nerdy, but fun. And selective color, you can call it like a component remix in the CMYK space, right? Or CMY space, really. We can talk about this kind of thing all the time. I know I make these color sciencey videos and I always ask if you guys want to learn more. It's because I'm not entirely sure if everyone wants this stuff. But at the very least, understand the selective color is additive, subtractive. Color balance is mostly a hue shift, right? And they're both very, very useful. They both have a lot of purpose. Don't get me wrong. Not one is better than the other, but understanding that they are different because they came from different, again, sort of color approaches, color techniques, and that they go back decades. Like I said, still very useful today, but just understanding how they work differently can be very powerful in terms of your creative exploration as well as corrective exploration.